Hi, I'm here at CRAN 2018 in Cincinnati, Ohio, speaking with Robert Swinburne, or Bob. Bob. Bob, what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
This would be an interesting one. I remember being in classrooms when I was a little kid and just zoning out and thinking about, what if this space were a house? How would I arrange it? So it's sort of a slightly different story than people thinking of probably famous buildings or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very rural area of Maine, so I didn't see much of what you would call architecture, but I was always very aware of any space I was in, bedroom, other people's houses and so forth. But the first time I ever remember thinking about actual architecture or asking anybody what it was involved thinking about that classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's... I'll try not to mutter it.
No, that's okay. You can mutter in between. That's fine. That's fine. What are 3 classic buildings that you like and why? And like I tell everybody, I say 3 because it can be hard for architects to limit
I'm trying to think
one.
of what's classic, and I'm not necessarily, it's like, the Parthenon, but no. So the 3 that I thought of, I'm trying to remember what they actually were. So in the middle of architecture school, we were going through a pretty rough time. One of our classmates had died, actually, and we were all feeling kind of burnt out on architecture, and there was a class trip to Falling Water,
Mm-hmm.
and it really, that re-energized me, and just the feeling and realizing what architecture could be, and it kind of put me back on the path.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Another one was...
I went to, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I never went to see Falling Water until I went back there in 94, which it was, or 95 actually, and it was after I'd already been to architecture school. I was already licensed, and so when I think of like the architecture that I grew up with in downtown Pittsburgh, it's very different from the architecture of Falling Water and Frank Lloyd Wright. But then I really started to appreciate Frank Lloyd Wright more after that.
Yeah, and so my second one is Saarinen's Chapel at MIT, which is this round drum-like brick structure with... It's just this tiny little simple building, and it's the most amazing light and intensity of space. You smell the space, you hear the space, you feel the space, you see the space, and just that, how little material and how, the thing was just tiny, and it was this amazing space that, so from that I got a sense of how you could use architecture to be so much more than just problem solving, and it could go much more into an emotional range.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty exciting for me. The third building is actually a disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright, Faye Jones, the Thorncroft, I think.
In Arkansas.
Yeah, the chapel.
The chapel.
And I like that because it's like the best part of when you're building a house is before the insulation and the sheetrock, and it's this glorious framing, and then he took that and said, this is it, and let's make every joint perfect and special. And when I built my own fern house years later, I stood back and looked at what I'd done. I did it without any drawings or models or anything. I just kind of went out there and started whacking, and it came out looking incredibly like something from the language of Faye Jones's chapels.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a surprise to me. It's kind of like, in retrospect, yeah, it's been festering in there for a long time. I'd spent years as a carpenter and thinking about joints and how to use wood, and realized I had sort of stepped up to that other level, and somehow just out of my head without any drawings, all these proportions came out absolutely brilliantly perfect. And that to me was another awakening, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a carpenter. I'll go back onto the path of being an architect, because hey, I could be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Sometimes the best experiences of life are not a straight path.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like about being an architect?
What do I like about being an architect? That I get to use my creative juices on a daily basis. And I mean, this is probably related to the question of why do you like working for yourself?
Yeah.
I think it's very related, but I mean, I love the people I meet, the clients, even when I hate them, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to help people, but also to do that at the same time as digging into my own muse and my own, the depths of my soul, and I can put it out there and help people with that, on that deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's so much more than problem solving, the perfect floor plan, good building science and all that. You just go beyond that into creating places that help people emotionally, help them with their lives, help them with just their day-to-day existence. It's the power, it's the thing we all aspire to, and I continue to aspire to it. And
evoking an emotional response from your
And
architecture.
I see so many of my colleagues, they've gone more corporate and all that, and they've really, maybe they never had that higher aspiration, or maybe they've lost it, maybe they've never really thought about it, but it's always been there. And I'm, at my age, I'm really excited that I have that continued level of excitement, and I, damn, 10 years ago, I'm so much better now. How am I going to be in 10 years? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's an excitement to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some people just don't, it's just part of their personality. I think that some people just aren't that worried about things emotionally.
Yeah. And to me, architecture is all about emotion.
Yeah, yeah. Or things don't, it just doesn't, a lot of things don't affect them emotionally, where with others, we experience it much more, just experience it on a deeper level, I guess. I don't know.
I was having an open house, and I realized people would come in through the door, and I was watching them to see what their reaction is, see what their emotion was, and just little facial tics, cues, the way they looked around. How are they looking at what I've done, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to. I realized I was doing it at the time, and it became kind of interesting, just how I connect to the people.
What would you like to say about the future of architecture?
The future of architecture. It's really exciting how much it's changed in the 20, 25 years I've been involved. Well, okay, say 20, 25, 30 years. Okay. Okay.
You just start doing the math, and then you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's changed so much in so many ways, and I know there's a fair amount of, architects run around complaining a lot and all that, but, adapt or die. It's wonderful how it's changing. It's how could it not change? And I think there's a certain fear of change, and I think the profession is doing fine. It needs to continually reinvent itself, its purpose, what it can do, and it's done that all along, so why won't it continue? There's new people coming into it. They have entirely different perspectives. It's like the music industry. Young people becoming musicians nowadays have been exposed to so much more music than 2 generations ago, and I've heard from older people who are teaching, at Juilliard, at the music schools,
Mm-hmm.
that the young people coming in just have way more perspective, and it's changing. There's no longer, the barriers between genres are breaking down, and it's becoming this whole new thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a parallel there in architecture, and I can't really define it, but I feel it, I see it, I think it's going to happen, and people should just stop being so afraid.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like with the whole cross genres that are, it's like, oh, is this rap? Is this hip hop? Is this country? Is this, is this what? new age, or you know.
And it's exciting to see musicians like Yo-Yo Ma just kind of like, yahoo, let's go for it. We'll just dig in. You know?
Yeah.
And that started a long time ago. I started with the Beatles. It started way before then. And then, you know, the notion that all music really has African roots is pretty exciting. And there's just so many parallels between that and what we do in architecture.
Yeah.
Again, that's just perspective.
Yeah, exactly. The whole lighten up, Francis thing.
Yeah, seriously.
So is there anything else that you have a few minutes? You said you were going to talk a lot, and you know, here we don't even have 15 minutes yet.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us about your do you want to talk about your new venture or what you're thinking about or not?
No.
Okay.
So I need to develop an elevator pitch for that.
Okay. Well, what about what you have right now that you've kind of been?
Yeah, so at this point in my career, and I don't know if this is a fluke, I hope it's not a fluke. I mean, I'm getting to the point where people are calling me because they want my vision. You know, this sounds silly, but, you know, in architecture, it's always, you know, the starchitects, the people, you know, people would call them up and say, I want your vision, no matter how much it costs. And, you know, I'll never get there. I don't want to be there. But just this notion that through my writings over the years, through social media, and through, you know, just who I am, you know, I am, and maybe branding, you could say it's branding. I am a Vermont architect. And people have read what I've written. They feel like they can connect to me. They're not afraid of me. There's sort of a fear of our, you know, at our level of service, we're not really working for rich people so much. We're, you know, teachers and, you know, local people. And I think traditionally there's a, you know, architects are for rich people, but I like to break that down. And so much of my work actually comes from the plumber, you know, the subs, the contractors.
Yeah.
I've you know, I've done my Captain Enthusiasm thing, and now they're like my biggest advocates, and they start talking about design issues like they were architects themselves, and you know, that I see as a success.
I think that's one of the differences between a lot of different places where, you know, even, I mean, when I was in Los Angeles, a lot of people think, oh, you did things for all of these wealthy people, and I did, and working in other people's offices, I did design a lot of high-end homes. But the thing is that it seemed like there was more worth seeing in getting an architect that even the person, you know, like I did an addition and remodel for, you know, a person who was a security guard for the Getty. And, you know, for him just being in the Getty, I mean, he had such a great, and he came up with the concept to the house, right? He said, you know, it's like, so we sat down, I said, oh, what were you thinking about for the house? And he said, oh, I was thinking that I wanted 2 black boxes. And I was like, really? I know, that's wonderful. That's
a
great.
Conversation starter.
Exactly, that's a conversation starter. And he was going to build it himself. And, you know, so he had this concept where, you know, I mean, he wasn't a very, you know, he wasn't a wealthy person, right? You know, as far as, I mean, of course, you know, we're all wealthy in Los Angeles, right?
Well, we're Americans.
Okay. So kind of wrapping up, is there anything else you would like to say?
Oh, there's probably a million things. No, I'm listening to myself talk, and I realize, wow, there's some passion there still. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I just kind of hope that comes across, and hopes it helps other people just to re-examine their own passion.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Robert, thank you so much, and I'm glad you came to the CRAN conference and we had a chance to finally meet. You know, we meet all these people on social media, and we have to get the, you know, from what Jeff said today, you know, you need to meet the people on social media and then immediately meet them afterwards as soon as possible.
Yeah,
right?
That was actually my big takeaway from Jeff's thing. It's like listening to Jeff, I'm doing so much right, but, you know, there's a few things, and that's a key one right there. So I'm really appreciative for that.
Yeah. So thank you.
But it's been an absolute blast. So
yes, it has. It was. I'll be coming back to more CRANs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.